I'm starving. Got me cheese. Fucking phone won't goddamn auto flip on the camera once I start rolling. So, I had a question. How many bites does it take to finish it, huh? I had a question on the distributor for the magnetic pickups in it. And well, before the internet, I referred to these. Because the internet ain't got all the answers to these. Nobody cares. And anybody that does care doesn't put out well enough information to figure it out. Done been down that road. So, this is what I got for manuals for these some bitches. Hopefully I can figure my question out. My question is, you have a 360-degree circle, right? And at 12 o'clock, you have a magnetic pickup, and at 3 o'clock, you have a magnetic pickup, essentially. It's not exactly that clockage, but just picture it like that, right? The 12 o'clock one would be leading or trailing, and the 3 o'clock would be leading or trailing. I'm not exactly sure which. I may just go through this and actually video the whole fucking thing so it's out there, because it has every bit of information and they're very hard to find. Talking about, so you got a beehive in that one. Oh, I'm hungry, let me alone. Starter picture. Checking differential cage, pressure ring, and spider. That's if you got lock and differential. Checking collapsible spacer. It's the top one. It says rear axle limited slip differential. Tells you how to do all the checking and making sure and such and such. Oh. Yeah, axle. This is that's tranny assembly. Looks like that's the automatic. Yeah, that's the bands and shit. Pretty simple fucking car. Especially when you got all the information at your hands. Man with average tools can generally take apart this thing and put it back together. You got all your manual transmission stuff in here. Supposedly Miata gears will fit in these boxes. That way you can get different ratios and stuff in them. But you wouldn't want to push those Miata gears much. Stock applications are wonderful, because then you can get new synchro rings and shit for it. Let's see. Telling you how to. Just bought a pulley here recently. Pilot. That one. Stick it in there, screw it down, and it screws into the collet. Collet opens up, grabs the edges of the pilot bearing. You just slide hammer it out. Comes out real easy. At least the one I had did. Clutch. There we go. Okay. Bearing, assembling distributor. Get a lay flat. I'm trying to eat cheese, goddamn, Bobby. So I'm assuming, since the one picture showed the lower. Let's see. That's in it. That's gross. Spark plug. Checking spark plug. Disconnect the high tension cord and remove the spark plug. Do not pull on the cords because the wire connection inside the cap may become separated. Check the spark plugs for burned or eroded electrode, black deposits, fouling, cracked porcelain. Clean your spark plugs with the spark plug cleaner or a wire brush if they are fouled. Replace any badly burnt or eroded spark plugs. And it shows the picture, the 4-prong ones for stock. That's interesting. So let's measure the gap, the electrode gap of each spark plug with a wire gauge. If it is improper, replace the spark plug. Standard spark plug gap initial 1.4 plus or minus at 0.05 millimeters. So 0.055 plus or minus 2/1000 of an inch. Smacking my gums right now. He just sitting down there smacking his cheeks. I had to get him. Installing spark plug. Install the spark plug noting the following points. Apply moly paste to the threads of spark plug. Torque each spark plug to 9 to 13 foot-pounds. It's not much. Removing distributor. Okay. Disconnect the high tension cords and vacuum sensing tubes from the distributor. Disconnect the couplers of igniters and condenser lead. Remove the distributor lock nut and pull out the distributor. 3, well, not that little tiny advanced part. So it's telling you to do they got hoses right here, probably disconnect there. There's a little lead that goes down to a little silver bullet looking like thing. It's just a silver can with wire out of it. They want you to unplug that, and then they want you to unscrew your distributor lock down. It says disassembling the distributor. Remove the distributor cap, rotor, and seal cover. Remove the screws attaching the igniter to the distributor housing and remove the igniter. So, okay, oh yeah. So this shows you that the first one is the leading one and the second one is the trailing one. That's my answer. There's my answer. Because they're hooked up, replacing this little gap here would go to the distributor and it's replacing that. They pulled the igniters out of it. So there's my answer. So it says remove the distributor cap, rotor, and seal cover. Remove the screws attaching the igniter to the distributor housing. Remove the igniter. Remove the clips holding the vacuum diaphragm links. Remove the screws attaching the vacuum control units to the distributor housing, and remove the vacuum control units and condenser. Remove the signal rotor shaft attaching screw and coil base bearing attaching screws. Remove the signal rotor shaft, pickup coil, and coil bearing base assembly, coil base bearing assembly through the top of the distributor drive shaft. Remove the signal rotor from the rotor shaft with suitable puller. Remove the spring pin. Where's this spring pin? I don't even see the fucking spring pin. But anyways, remove the governors by removing the springs. Drive the lockout pin. Drive the lock pin out of the driven gear with a small drift and remove the gear and washers. Remove the shaft through the top of the distributor housing. Inspecting distributor. Follow these steps. Inspect the following parts and replace if necessary. Distributor cap. Inspect the distributor cap for cracks, carbon tracks, burnt and corroded terminals. Check center contact for wear. Rotor. Inspect the rotor for cracks and evidence of excessive burning at the end of the metal strip. And it says pickup coils, which is the magnetic sensors, basically the electromagnets. Connect an ohm meter to terminals in the coupler and check the resistance of the pickup coils. The standard resistances are 650 plus or minus 50 ohms at 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, on both trailing and leading coils. Connect an ammeter Maximum graduation is DC 1 milliamp. 1 lowercase m, uppercase A. 2 terminals in the coupler, and place a screwdriver on the magnetic core of the pickup coil. Make sure the indicator of the meter moves when the screwdriver is quickly separated from the core. The above test should be done on each trailing and leading coils. Bearing. Inspect the bearing for roughness by slowly turning the outer race by hand. Basically turning the whole rotor thing, I think. I don't know. Assembling the distributor. Assemble the distributor in reverse order of the disassembly, noting the following points. Install the signal rotor shaft onto the distributor drive shaft, engaging the slots of the rotor shaft and governor pins. Install the pickup coil and coil base bearing as assembly, and tighten the attaching screws. Install the signal rotor onto the rotor shaft. Drive in the spring pin with a suitable punch and secure the signal rotor. Your spring pin is supposedly located there. Yeah, it wouldn't work well. Turn the distributor drive shaft until the protrusion of the signal rotor aligns with the core of the pickup and coil. Check the air gap with a feeler gauge. Sorry, popped up the low battery notice. So your air gap would be right there between the pickup and that little 4-bladed piece. Check the air gap. It says if the air gap is not within specifications, replace the pickup coil and bearing assembly or the distributor or drive shaft. Standard air gap is 20 to 35 thousandths of an inch. Installing distributor. It says align the leading timing mark yellow painted, which obviously there's not going to be any paint anymore. The leading timing mark yellow painted on the eccentric shaft pulley with the indicator pin on the front cover. Oh, there, yeah. Okay, so the first mark you come across as rotates to the right would be the leading mark. The second one is the trailing mark. I'll see if I can verify that on that, if I installed it correctly. Align the tally marks on the distributor housing and driven gear. Install the distributor and lock nut. Turn the distributor housing until the protrusion of the signal rotor aligns with the core of the pickup coil. Tighten the lock nut. Connect the high tension cords, igniter wiring couplers and condenser lead. Connect the vacuum sensing tubes. Adjust the ignition timing as described in paragraph 5E-6. Let's see here. Okay. Evidently has a centrifugal advance and a vacuum advance. It says adjust ignition timing. Sorry. Warm up the engine to the normal operating temperature. Connect the tachometer to the engine. Connect a tachometer to the engine. Connect the timing light to a high tension cord. Connect the timing light to high tension cord of the leading spark plug on the front. Start the engine and run it at specified idle speed. Aim the timing light at the timing indicator pin on the front cover. If the leading timing is not correct, loosen the distributor lock nut and rotate the distributor housing until the correct leading timing is obtained. Tighten the distributor lock nut and recheck the leading timing. Connect the timing light to high tension cord. Okay, so this is going to help quite a bit. Okay, so it's saying to rotate the distributor if it's not set right, obviously. Tighten the nut and check the leading timing. Connect the timing light to the high tension cord of the trailing spark plug on the front. Check the trailing timing. If the trailing timing is not correct, loosen the vacuum unit, the actual unit, this whole unit here. This whole unit, those 2 screws will loosen that son of a bitch up. It says, not correct, loosen the vacuum unit, attaching screws to the trailing, and move the vacuum unit until the correct trailing timing is obtained. Tighten the vacuum unit, attaching screws, and recheck the trailing timing. Checking advancing characteristics. To check the To test the ignition advanced characteristics of the distributor, use a distributor tester following the instructions of the manufacturer. The advanced, yeah, some bullshit you can't fucking do anymore. The advancing characteristics of the distributor should be within the range as shown in figure. Igniter, ignition coil. Okay, so you can take an ohm. You can take and check all this. High tension cord. Check the resistance of each high tension cord. The resistance should not exceed 16,000 ohms per 1 meter. No, when checking the resistance of cords and setting ignition time, do not puncture the cords with a probe. Ad nauseum. 16-minute video already. It says, when removing the cords from the spark plugs, grasp and twist the molded cap, then pull the cap off the spark plug. Do not pull by the cord. Connection may come apart. Insulator may be damaged. And it goes on to the clutch. Okay. That answered my question. Hey,